Can we get another?
Have you been?
Yeah.
Are you?
No, I'm not. I'm the funeral director, but David Rogers is celebrant. He's taking it. So
Okay. You're just coordinating the background stuff.
making sure it
Everything
all
runs smooth.
Yep, and then I'm disappearing.
Okay.
Yep. He's good. He's given up indoor finally. He's got asked to go and play for me. TJ's playing indoor on Friday night.
Oh, so you're not playing? Oh, cricket. He's giving up cricket.
Yeah. He's still playing outdoor, but indoor he's just not doing any fun. So, and then, so he was down at indoor for TJ on Friday night, and they're like, "Come play for us." And I was like,
Yeah, I haven't played.
no, he's more interested in getting TJ into it. So, so he's playing down here. And get them started young, you see. That's how we all got roped into. Register there. Would you like to sign it now or after the service? Scan it across. One more line here. What can be signed after the service? Just trying to get good things. Get people in and unrestricted. I need to start a new page. Start on that.
She said,
That's right. It's okay. Cell phone number? And also there's a condolence form here if you'd like to sign for the family.
Yeah, no, I've got to go.
Have you guys signed them or scanned them? There's a sign in there if you need to, and also a condolence book for the family. Just get either sign it or scan it. You can either sign it or scan it. There's a condolence register either you can just sign it or scan it. The sign is fine. And then there's also a condolence register just on the table here if you'd like to sign with the family. I don't even yeah, there is there. Just in You're the bar manager. Oh. The family and yeah, they were, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, just to give you right.
That's all.
Put on your airplane mode. Can you please stand?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Rogers, and I've been asked if I can help and assist with the service for Roy here at the Hallsville Bowling Club rooms this afternoon. I just want to check as we commence that for those of you who are at the back, can you hear my voice okay? That's good. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. For those who are standing or those at the back, there are about 2 and a bit rows of seats here that are available. So if you'd like to come further forward, and there are seats also on the other side, so we'd like to encourage you to come forward if you wish. Thank you, ladies. I know being a bloke, it's easy to stand at the back with your hands in your pocket, but you are welcome to come forward. I see you're strategically placed among all the baking and cooking down there too. As we commence the service, there are 1 or 2 invitations from Denise and the family. Firstly, at the conclusion of this memorial service, the invitation is to remain here, where, as you can see, refreshments have been prepared and will be served at the end of the service. So please join with the family. Also, there will be a bar tab as well. The bar will be open with a bar tab, as Denise said, perhaps not as large as Roy would have wished, but at least you can have, I know, I'm sure, a drink on him. Thank you also for signing the memorial register as a record of your being here today. I know a number of you came in together just prior to the 2 o'clock commencing time, and so you may not have seen the memorial registers there. So if you have a chance, please sign this as a record of your being here at Roy's service this afternoon. Denise and the family would really appreciate this. I'd like to welcome each one of you here today to the service for Roy, this memorial service. Some of you may have been wondering why we're having it here at the Hallsville Bowling Club. Well, I think it was just last year, that was in August of last year, that we had the service for his father-in-law Dennis. Many of you remember Dennis, and Liz of course. We had Dennis's service here in August of last year, so that's why we've come back to this very fine facility here in Hallsville. But I thank you each one for coming to be with the family as they gather to say this loving goodbye to him. I know you've come here today to support the family by your presence here in the club rooms, but you've also come to pay tribute to honour and to celebrate Roy and his very special life. I thought it was a wonderful thing when the family, with Lainey, where's Lainey sitting? Oh, she's behind Lainey. She's over on that side. Brought the ashes urn in. So thank you, Lainey, for doing that. That was very, very special and lovely to see. I'd like to thank those of you who have made special efforts in being here with us today. Some of you may have travelled. This is much appreciated. As you all know, Roy was a loved member of his family. He was also a good friend and neighbour, and over the years he was a workmate and a boss too for a while. Some of you may have worked with him. I just want to thank you for those ways in which you have shown your love and care to the family over the past few days. Those messages and visits and phone calls, of course, but I thank you for your ongoing support and encouragement over the weeks and months that are to come. And on behalf of each one of us who are gathered here today, I offer especially to Denise and Hannah and Tom, Charlotte, Lainey and Rex and Heath. Where's Heath? Where is he? Oh, there he's over there. Hi Heath. He's there. And your families, but all who are close to Roy, sincerest sympathies and condolences in this the time of your sad and sudden loss. I'd also mention there are some who cannot be here with us for the service today. People are overseas. These include many of Roy's old friends back in London. He grew up with these lads there in London, and they'll be having a drink on him today or about this time, although we're about 12 hours difference in time, aren't we? But they're thinking of us. But also some of his former workmates from the Merchant Navy, the ship, the Sea Princess and the other vessels upon which he served. They are not here, they are thinking of us. And the service is in fact being live streamed today, and we acknowledge this, and certainly Roy's friends and former workmates who are not here in New Zealand with us at this time. As we meet here this afternoon, we're able to come here for a little while to reflect on Roy and his life. A number of you are going to speak, the family certainly are, and later on we're going to give an invitation, extend an invitation to those of you who may wish to come forward to briefly share something with us, but of course you can leave a lot of your Roy stories till later on as you chat over refreshments. I know you can give thanks because of who he was, the ways in which he has shared of his life with you, for many of those memories that he has left behind for you. It was a pleasure for me to sit down with Denise and the family as we planned and prepared and organised the service for Roy this afternoon. I'd just like to reflect some of those things that the family shared and spoke about as they were thinking about his life. As many of you will probably know, Roy was not born here in New Zealand. He was born in London. He was born on the 23rd of May 1958. He was always very close to his mother Louise, who was also affectionately known as Coots. As a boy, he grew up in London. He attended the Holloway Primary School, so his education took place there in London. And following school days, Roy completed a motor mechanics course at a local polytechnic. His mother, at the same time, managed the banquet suite at the famous Lord's cricket ground. I don't know whether any of you here today have been to Lord's. I've been there and seen some test cricket there. But his mother managed the banqueting division, the suite there, and it was through this connection that Roy also worked at Lord's in the catering area there. Interestingly and coincidentally, his uncle managed the catering at Highbury, which was for many years the ground for the Arsenal football club. Arsenal, of course, now plays at Emirates. I see one of our people here today is wearing Emirates, Fly Emirates on his polo shirt. Good on you. Roy would appreciate and respect that. That was good. So, and of course, as a result of this, he became a keen Arsenal supporter throughout his life. Nice to see the Arsenal Guernsey up there, and of course the England, looked like England rugby there as well, connecting him with his past. But we pay tribute to the red and white of Arsenal this afternoon. Roy was to go and join and enlist with P&O Cruisers. He was to join the Merchant Navy. Brad's going to speak about this as well today. And he was to work on ships such as the Sea Princess. And as Denise reminded me, and I've forgotten this, but the Sea Princess was in fact the original love boat. And of course it certainly became that for Roy and Denise, because it was on a cruise through the Pacific that they met. And their friendship was to lead to their marriage in London in 1985. By now, and this time, Roy had gone ashore and he was to work on various housing projects in the construction industry in London, and he was also a postman for a while as well. It was in London that Roy and Denise's first child, a daughter Hannah, was born in London in 1987. The next year, 1988, they came to New Zealand. For Roy, of course, it was coming back, I suppose, after a very brief visit to this country. But of course, for Denise, it was returning home. And they established life in Christchurch with Denise's parents, Dennis and Liz, living in nearby Dunbar's Road. They lived there for a short time, and then they shifted over to Suva Street in Riccarton. Work-wise, Roy had a position with Dennis Wharton, and also Denise's brother Heath. They worked together. He was to go on and work with Canterbury Civil Building Services. Roy was to also own his own business, as some of you will remember, Canterbury Professional Contractors, doing asphalting and concreting work, driveways and paved areas. The family spoke of Carl and Mike working with him at that time. When Denise and Roy separated, Roy returned to England for 2 years, where he drove trucks, and he would come back to New Zealand at Christmas time to be with the family with whom he remained very close. Living back in New Zealand, he came back from England after those 2 years. He did more driving work over here, and this would take him often all around the South Island. Later on, he had a position at Ravensdown, and still later another at Downer Construction until the lockdown due to the COVID virus. Over the years, and Denise said that Roy belonged to a number of local organisations. He was involved with the Riccarton Working Men's Club, where he was in fact elected president there. He enjoyed also his social softball at times, playing with the Albion Club, and there was also his football, soccer as we've often called it in the past here, but more and more football these days, here at Hallswell. He coached at Avon United when Tom was growing up, taking Tom up through the grades as a coach. He also, continuing his interest in football, took his brother-in-law Heath to see an FA Cup final, where that year featuring Liverpool. Heath, what year was that? 1989. Oh, just after the Hillsborough disaster. That was tragic, wasn't it? And of course, just a few days ahead, the most recent FA Cup final with Leicester defeating Chelsea. But 1989 is a year you'd never forget there, Heath. Yeah, that's for sure. As a dad, he would take Tom, his son, to see the rugby, Canterbury, the Crusaders, and the All Blacks when they were in the city and playing at Lancaster Park in those days. He also loved to take Hannah and Charlotte to the Riccarton Mall, at times to do a bit of shopping. I guess they led him round, and he followed around and pulled out his wallet as he had to and needed to for his daughters. He enjoyed his pool at the Riccarton Club. Roy's also found pleasure in socialising. I think that's another pleasant name for drinking, at the Blenheim Road Tavern with his friends, and also the Hornby Working Men's Club. Another interest was music. I enjoyed the music that you chose to play before the commencement of the service today. There was sailing playing, of course, that touching base and connecting with his involvement with the sea earlier on with the Merchant Navy. As the years passed, something very important happened. A granddaughter arrived, Lainey. And again, thank you, Lainey. I love your dress. It's a really special fairy dress you've got on today, and it's beautiful. When she arrived, of course, Roy very quickly found out that she was the apple of his eye. I don't know where that left you, Denise, and the girls, but anyway, so Lainey became a very... I remember Lainey speaking at Dennis's funeral. Maybe she will today too. That was wonderful. I'm not going to that. Okay, she's checking that she's not going to. But I know as she was growing, he did a lot of babysitting for Lainey and supported her in so many ways, as a granddad can do. In recent years, as many of you will know, Roy has been living at Brimley Street over there in Hornby. During the lockdown, which we faced here in the city for a month or so, he would cook meals for his father-in-law Dennis, and he would walk these meals all the way from Brimley Street in Hornby across to Dunbar's Road here in Hallsville. It's pretty good, isn't it? And because he couldn't go in and go inside the house, he would hang the meals on the gate outside. I guess he had a few words with Dennis and chatted a bit, and then walked all the way back to Hornby. So that's an amazing thing to do that Roy did. As many of you will know, it has been over recent times that Roy has not been so well. He battled with his health. He kept as active as possible, and certainly keeping active mainly through his walking. But he loved, above all else, his ongoing contact with his family. They meant so much to him, each one of them. But it was Saturday before last, just over a week ago, at home, that Roy passed suddenly and unexpectedly to his rest. As you know, his body has been cremated, and his ashes are here with us at the service today. Well, I'm pleased that a number of you are going to share in the service. And first of all, Denise. Welcome, Denise. Thank you for being a part of the service at this time.
Oh, I think I've got quite a loud voice. Just say if you can't hear me, I'm pretty good at shouting, Roy would have said. I'm really sad to be standing here today. It doesn't feel well, the man I married and the father of our children, Hannah, Tom and Charlotte, and the granddad of Chippy, as he was known to Lainey Rose. As David said, Roy died suddenly and unexpectedly on Saturday the 8th of May, and we're still grappling with the shock as well as our grief. David's explained that I met Roy in the early 80s when I went on a cruise on the Sea Princess with Karen Moki, who's here somewhere. He was in the Merchant Navy and was on gangway duty the day I boarded the ship, which meant he welcomed us passengers aboard. He was young, he was blonde, tanned, charming, and a very dashing man in a uniform, and I did fall madly in love. So much so that I played bingo on the last night of the cruise because the prize was another cruise, and that would mean I didn't have to say goodbye if I won. I didn't win, but what I did do was save my money, and then I chased him around the world, eventually settling in London with him, and we bought our first home in Camden Town, which was very near where he grew up. We had a great life. We lived the high life, we travelled a lot, and Roy stayed at sea for several more years. I'd go and meet him at whatever port he was in when he had a few days off, or I'd travel down to Southampton when the ship was in the port for the day. In '85 we married in a very traditional wedding in a lovely London church, and we settled down to a happily married life. Roy left the sea. Hannah was born in '87, and in '88 we came home to New Zealand. Tom arrived in 1990 and Charlotte in '95. As David said, Roy did a variety of jobs. He was a doting dad to Hannah, Tom and Charlotte, and they'll tell you that. And the depth of their grief at the moment is a measure of the love they had with him. He was a soft touch, and he could be counted on saying yes, especially when I said no. Although we separated some years ago, our family unit remained tight. It's just different. We just conducted our family life together, but from different paths. He was always a loved son-in-law, brother-in-law and uncle, and a big part of our extended family. He was over the moon to become a grandfather, and he just adored Lainey Rose. She called him Chip from the moment she could speak, and we don't know why, and perhaps that's their secret, eh, Lainey? Roy regularly walked to Lainey's school to pick her up and look after her while Hannah worked. She loved to see Chippy waiting at the gate for her, and of course she knew it meant treats, games of dominoes, and whatever else he would patiently teach her. During lockdown, Roy mastered, well, it's probably not the right word, he kind of mastered the art of Facebook, and he reconnected with his sea mates and those in London he grew up with. He recently posted a photo of his sea friend, Tommy Jack. He posted it repeatedly for days on end on his Facebook page. And when I asked why, he said, "I'm just trying to find him. I think Facebook worked like a wanted poster." Roy remained passionate about the sea, and one of his fellow Navy friends explained that it's salt water that runs through their veins, not blood, and that they were all family. It's been very heartening and overwhelming to receive so many messages, photos and video tributes from his friends at sea. And the words they use to describe Roy are words such as gentle giant, kind, fun, so sensitive and gentle for such a big man. And a recent message to our children was, "Your dad is fondly remembered by many, and now he has crossed the bar. May he be in calm waters. His watch is over, and may he rest in peace." At this point, I'd like to thank Brad here, who's a friend of Roy's who's come down from Hamilton where he now lives. He's a friend from sea, and he's representing all of his friends from the Navy. Greg would have been here also, however today his son is graduating, so that's where he should be, but I know he and all of his other old sea friends are here with us in spirit, and will watch the service as it's being live streamed. The lads from London that Roy grew up with, they're much older lads now, but they were arranging a get together to drink to Coots as he was known, and I know he'd love that. It's bittersweet that I followed Roy across the world, up the aisle, and then finally and sadly last week to the crematorium. So in some ways it seems as though it really was till death us do part. Roy, you were missed by many, your friends here, your friends in London, your friends from the sea and others around the world, and most deeply by those who are always so close to your heart, your family, Hannah, Tom and Charlotte. I'm so sorry for your loss. I always feel your dad's arms around you and his love surrounding you. And Lainey Rose. Lainey, your darling Chippy loved you so much to me, and he's always going to watch over you from that special place he is now. Best easy, Roy.
Well, from us all, Denise, thank you so much for having the courage and the strength to be able to share those wonderful words for Roy today. You've elaborated on some of that history I shared on your behalf before, but you've shared some of your feelings too. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, Hannah and Tom and Charlotte are going to speak as a part of the service today. I don't know whether they're coming together. They are.
stand up together but speaking
That's
separately.
wonderful. So I'll let you stand over here, you guys. So Hannah, Tom and Charlotte, thank you so much.
Apparently it's age before beauty, so I guess I'll go first. I think I might be okay. Kind of. Kia ora whānau, most of you will know who I am, but for those who don't, I'm Hannah, eldest child of Roy and Denise, mum to Lainey Rose, who is the apple of his eye, as he would tell you all. Writing this has been the worst task that I've ever had to do. I have a million wonderful stories that I want to tell you about my dad, but during this last week it's been a struggle just to breathe, let alone put pen to paper and to do this. So Dad, I'm not impressed with this situation. I could tell you how kind he is, that he's generous to a fault, that man. If he had it and you needed it, then it was yours. If he didn't have it, he would do his utmost to get it. And I don't just mean money, I mean it all, but especially his time. And it turns out that we just didn't have enough time with him, I guess. The stories of growing up with Dad were ones of a time where he would be there for everything, for sports games, music, drama performances. He was always there, always the loudest on a sideline, every time without fail, telling me after every home run, every sprint or cross country that I was his champion and that I ran like a gazelle. Dad was the fun parent. I have many fun memories of when Mum was at work and I was a teenager and he was home. We'd have a few sneaky drinks, usually with my best friend Gina, and we'd dance and sing to UB40, and his voice when he sang those songs was magic. Like us all, my dad had his flaws, and at times he and I shared and battled with those same flaws. But thankfully, we shared a lot of the same strengths, and that has always meant that when we're facing hardships or hopelessness, somehow, no matter what the situation, we carry on and we push through. We hold our head up, knowing that the hard times would pass if we just carried on and gave it our very best. And even at a time where I wasn't trying to make myself better and Mum had finally had enough and given me the boot by way of a trespass notice, he was there to take me in. I deserved it, she wasn't being awful. Dad and I had some great memories living together. We had lots of laughs, but also had lots of struggles. I was sick and nobody could understand me, not even my dad. But every time I lost my rag, he would still welcome me back home and move forward with me. I got sober at my dad's house, and that was no easy feat, but he gave me the space to do that, and despite me having mega meltdowns and doing some really stupid shit, like throwing all his shoes on his roof the day that I moved out, he still somehow loved me and supported me. After that, I headed out into a life outside of Christchurch, and during my visits, he would be the first face that I saw at the airport, standing tall above everyone with a grin wider than the Cheshire Cat and tears full of happy rolling down his face. Those hugs were always my favourite. After several years away, I moved home. I would often meet him on a Saturday afternoon for a drink, and bless his heart, despite the fact that I had a job and an income, he would always ensure that my petrol tank was full and there was cash in my wallet when I left. Just take it, just in case, he always told me. Just over a year after coming home, I find out I was pregnant. He was so excited and greeting this news with his signature high-pitched yippee. His precious grandbaby was born at 4 a.m. and he was in to see her by 6 a.m, much to my dismay, being exhausted, having just gotten into bed at that time. But now I can see that all it was love. Huge, classic dad love. A love that we all took for granted far too often. When Lainey started to talk, we tried so hard to teach her to call him Gramps. She never even came close. She decided, for reasons unknown to us, that he would be Chip, and what a chip he was. That wonderful man has been such an important part of our village. It's because of Chip that I could work. He did the preschool drop-off and pick-up and looked after her until he picked up me. He knew her and her preschool teachers better than I did. He was there for her at preschool Father's Day celebrations and so many moments that we've been blessed with by way of not being a conventional family unit of a mum, a dad and a child. He essentially co-parented with me, and I'm so thankful for so many reasons, but mostly because it meant that he had
that Lainey had a wonderful role model in him. He loved to spend time with her and no request was ever turned down. He would lug her bike and her all the way to the park if that's what she so wished. He taught her so many things in the short 5 years that she had with him, being his most treasured person. He taught her to poke her tongue out, how to write her name, how to give a good strong handshake and say, "Nice to meet ya." How to ride her bike with no training wheels, just like he taught me to ride my bike. Her most recent lessons with Chip were just over a week ago when he taught her to play dominoes. They gardened, hung pictures, with nails in my walls of course. She was watching Dr. Martin and Mrs. Brown's Boys, shows totally inappropriate for her age and at totally inappropriate hours of the evening, while eating totally inappropriate treats of Maltesers or M&Ms, and he'd always saved some for me when I came home from work. I'd come home from work to the sound of them both belly laughing and her mimicking his English accent. Every morning and every night he would message, "Good morning you two, have a great day, and good night you two, stay safe, keep warm, sleep well, love Dad/Chip." Dad's last day living Earthside, he walked 8 kilometres to pick Lainey up from school so that I could go to an appointment. I came home to them playing a spelling game and we sat and chatted for about an hour just catching up. I can't remember much about what we talked about, but I know that we laughed. We always did. On the drive to take him home, he told me how he'd woken early that morning and gone back to bed and slept in till 10:45. We were talking about how unlike him that was, and he says that when that happens, he thinks it's just your body being tired and that it needed the rest. I didn't expect this much rest, Dad. We got to his house and I told him what I always did. "Thanks so much, Dad. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a good sleep." He wished us the same, and for some reason that night we stayed a few moments longer and he was tickling Lainey through the back window of the car. We were the last people Dad saw, and I feel like even though he, like us, would feel ripped off right now, he'll be thankful and pleased that his last few hours of the day were spent with Lainey Rose. I got home and got my daily goodnight text, but thought I'd catch up with him over the weekend. So I left replying in case I woke him. I will always wish that I messaged him back and said all those same things that we say daily, but I know he knows how much I love him, and I am thankful for all the memories that we had with the apple of his eye, Lainey Rose Coots. Dad, good night, God bless, sleep well, be safe, sweet dreams, I love you.
Hello.
Do your rap.
Hello everybody. I'm Charlotte, the baby of the family. This might take me a while. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today to celebrate Dad and the wonderful life that he lived. A good game is a fast game, Dad would always say. Well, Dad, you definitely had a good game, but the time we had you here went far too fast. I've ummed and ahed about what to put in this speech for Dad, making sure I don't miss a single detail, making sure I say everything I want him to hear and know. At 25, you don't expect to have to put pen to paper and read to a room full of people without him being here to listen to it. But I know he can hear me somehow. My dad was a kind and patient man. When we talked, he really listened, and he remembered every detail of our stories and all of our achievements, and he would go on to tell his friends, usually with a bit of exaggeration though. I should probably let you know I've never played netball for New Zealand, and my brother Tom isn't in the Black Caps. But Dad was our biggest cheerleader. I vividly remember Dad teaching me to ride my bike without training wheels at Middleton Park. As I finally got the hang of it and I was pedaling away on my own, he was screaming with pride, "Go, Charlie, go!" The only thing was he hadn't taught me how to stop. I came crashing down in front of him and he was laughing that deep belly laugh that I can still hear. He scooped me up and I just got back on. Dad had the biggest heart. He showed us what love really meant. His family and his friends were his entire world. Dad would give the clothes off his back if it meant making someone else warmer. And we never missed out on anything growing up. No matter how tough or tight things got, he would always find a way through. A determined man with a heart of gold. Recently I've begun my studies to one day be a nurse. Dad couldn't have been happier. He remembered every test that I had coming up and he'd wish me luck and then call or text for my results. No matter what they were, he was proud of me. He made me feel like I could do anything. Although, when we drove him round, he would tell us where to go, what way was the fastest, where to park, when to pull out, when to stop, when to speed up, or he would hold on to the door to make it obvious he wanted us to slow down. Drive in straight lines, it's the fastest way, he would always say, even though it definitely wasn't. But he always thought his way was right. And over the past week, my mind has been everywhere, and I've found myself only being able to drive in straight lines. But it still takes longer, Dad. Jaden, my partner, and I moved to England in 2019. This was before Dad had mastered the art of Facebook Messenger. Every 2 weeks I received a letter in the mail with all of Dad's updates on his last few weeks, usually details about where he had walked, a new breakfast cereal he was trying, or what he and Lainey Rose had been doing. I would write back letting him know the places Jaden and I had been, keeping him up to date with our adventures. And I always thought, I wonder if Dad knows he could contact me much faster and more frequently on his phone. But now I'm so glad he sent me those letters so I can treasure them forever. There are so many things that I'll miss about Dad. I'll miss his bear hugs and his belly laugh, his worldly advice, and the way he'd say, "You know what I mean?" at the end of a sentence, even if I had no idea what he meant. I'll miss watching him play games with my Lainey Rose, and the way he'd squeeze us tight and call us sweetie pie at the gate and then wave us off. I feel cheated. Dad was supposed to watch me become a nurse and walk me down the aisle and be there to watch my children grow up. But I'll never stop saying your name, Dad. I'm so lucky to have had you. And I'll treasure the life that you gave me, everything you've taught me, and all of the memories that we made. When I left for the UK, Dad told me that even though it's hard, the best part of saying goodbye is that the hellos are oh so much better. I just never thought our goodbye would have to be so soon. But when my time comes and I'm old and grey, we'll say hello again, and the piece of my heart that you took with you will be mended. Good night, God bless, sleep well, be safe, sweet dreams. Love you, Dad.
Thank you all for coming today to celebrate Dad's life. I'm Tom, the boy's only son, and as you can see, his best looking child.
That's why it's got last there.
Now, my first memory of Dad's a pretty weird one. Dad used to have this big truck, and I just loved his big truck. He'd come home in his big truck, I'd run out there, and it's like going for a ride in his truck. And but I also loved to wear my sister's dresses, and yeah. I used to bounce on the tram, watch the dress go up. Dad would come home in his big truck and he'd go, psh. I'd jump off the tram, take off the dress, put my shorts and my Arsenal shirt on and go greet Dad, and we'd go in the backyard and kick the footy around. So he didn't really care, which is good. But yeah, me and Dad shared a huge passion for sport. I got it from him. We loved our Arsenal. He'd come wake me up. And watch Arsenal games with a cup of tea and scream at the TV, and yeah, it's just some of the best memories of my life, really. And he'd take me to the rugby games, Crusaders, Canterbury, anything going. Me and the boys would take along, and yeah, it was just some amazing memories we had. And I'll never forget my first All Blacks game. Dad took me along, and I'd have been about 10. And you take a kid to footy pack, and the Mexican wave was rolling around the stadium, and it came to us, and I had about a quarter left in my Coke. Came round, up it went, landed on a guy in front of us about 10 rows, and he turned around, had a go. Dad told him where to go, and Dad grabbed my ear. I'll never forget, he pulled my ear so damn hard, so if you're wondering why they're sticking out, yeah. But school holidays as well, Dad would take me to his work site, and he'd give me $40 for a full day's work, which at that point I thought was bloody awesome. I only went 3 or 4 times because I was rubbish on the tools. But yeah, it was just you know, I just wanted to be like Dad, And yeah, Dad's he's a gentle giant of a man. He loves his family, he loves his friends, he loves our friends. Dad just saw the good in everyone, you know. He didn't matter, you know, he'd just find the good in people, and that's something I'll hold on to for the rest of my life. And Dad, I promise to look after you girls. Mum, Charlotte, Hannah, Lainey, Cherry. I'll look after you guys forever. I'll make sure you're happy, you're loved, and everything, alright? Promise, Dad. I've got a real nice last memory of Dad. Sorry. On my birthday, my partner organised a surprise brunch, and I just got back from Wellington, and so my sister picked me up, and it was meant to be a surprise, so I wasn't meant to know. Pull in the driveway, who's standing in the window? Dad's standing there, Toby, can't hide, Danny, can't hide, gives it away. But anyway, we had a great brunch, and me and Dad just sat out on the deck looking at the ocean, sat out there for about 20 minutes, just having a yarn, having a coffee, and that was the last time that we had together. And when he left, me and Dad always shook hands. And he went to shake my hand, and I said, "Come here, you big bastard, give me a hug." And we had that hug, and it's the last ever hug I'll get, and it will stick with me forever. So yeah, but yeah, I love you, Dad. I miss you. I'll make you proud. Good night. God bless. Live well. Be safe. Sweet dreams. I love you. You got one?
Well, thank you very much, Hannah and Charlotte and Tom, for sharing with us your memories as children growing up. Thanks for speaking with huge honesty and feeling and emotion. It was lovely to hear of his tolerance and kindness and patience with you. And these qualities I know you'll always treasure within your hearts. Gives me pleasure to welcome also Heath as a brother-in-law. I know Rex has got something for us, so welcome Heath first of all. Thank you. Rex is going to go first. Are we coming together? coming together. So Heath and Rex as Denise's brothers. Thank you so much. Just stand out here, might be easier.
Well, it works out quite well that we're at the Lena again, because as you can see in the little photo, there's the three of us. Every Friday night we used to go to the Britain Club and have a few beers with Cootsy, and you didn't sort of pay much, you always shouted. Before my three kids were born, the two best things in my life was, well, not so much the wedding, but going up to Anfield in '85. On the way up the steps, Cootsy said to me, "If you talk to me, I'm going to talk very quietly." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, what do you fucking think? I'm a Cockney." So, walking up the steps, written on the wall was "Kill all Cockney bastards." So, it's very quiet that game. And in '89 we went back. He went back to see friends and family. I want to go to the FA Cup final. We went there. We got there on a Wednesday. We got tickets to the Friday Cup final the Saturday. Rest of the time there, we get up in the morning and say, "What should we do today?" We'd work something out. On the way down to the tube or the bus stop, we'd say, "Should we pop in for a pint at the Viceroy," which was his local? I'd say, "All right." About 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the Arvo, so well, it's a bit late to do that now. So that was basically the 6 weeks. But it was a lot of fun. As Abel said, he's very caring, loving, and had some bloody good times with him. Love you, Pixie.
Thanks, Heath.
You need your specs fixing.
Yeah.
And your glasses. Should have written it bigger.
Yeah, I'm Rex, Coots' brother-in-law, who are the brother-in-law. I'm the shortest one, and the oldest brother-in-law. We first met Roy when he and Denise came home to New Zealand from London to introduce Roy to the family before they were married. Everyone knows Roy loves a few beers, so he knew he was married into the right family as me and Heath like a few beers as well. So over the years, many a good time was had at family occasions, local pubs and clubs. We went to London for Denise and Roy's wedding and got a pretty good introduction to London. As soon as the plane's tyres hit the tarmac, we were straight to the pub to introduce his future wife's family to his mates. And we were soon plied with many pints of Tennent's extra strong, so it was a pretty blurry introduction to London. Roy is a loved member of the family. He was a loving uncle to his nieces. Sorry, Roy, we couldn't give you a nephew. After their separation, Roy was still and still is in spirit an important part of our families and at every family and social occasion. Roy even boarded with my father-in-law for some time. Before our dad passed away, Roy would walk from Hornby to Horswell to visit him, and on occasions would take a container of cooked food for him and spend time with him. Dad loved those visits, but one day he told me he didn't want to seem ungrateful to Roy, but he had more curried sausages than he could eat in his lifetime. Roy had a big heart when it came to family. Family was important to him. Save us a seat at the bar, Cootsy.
Thank you, Heath. Thank you, Rex. It's really great to have you guys as a part of the service for Roy today, or Cootsy as you called him, and many knew him by that affectionate term. Really good to hear your stories as well. It's already been mentioned that Brad Maxwell has travelled down from the North Island to be here today. And welcome, Brad. Thanks for being a part of the service. Good to have you here at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. It's really nice to hear the music playing as Roy was walked in today, Sailing by Rod Stewart. It was one of those songs that we played as we departed course around the world on our next adventure, so a very fitting tribute. Hung in the window to our left is the Red Ensign, which is the flag under which we served as merchant seamen around the world. And next to that is the P&O house flag, which is the company that we served for many years. Like many young lads in the UK in the 1970s, Roy sought adventure. So he joined the Merchant Navy. And joining the Merchant Navy meant that you joined a very unique brotherhood. Going to sea at a young age often meant long spells away from home, travelling the globe. The sea often became your first love, and many of the men and women you sail with become friends for life, no matter what. Some of those friends from 40 years ago have said to me on Facebook that they hope to connect to today's service. So, friends and colleagues, welcome. When news broke of Roy's sudden passing, we were all very stunned. He was actually due to join a crew bar chat group on the Sunday to catch up with some of those friends from around the world. From places like Atlanta and Seattle, London, Sydney, Perth. But as we've heard, he'd only just taken up Facebook, so he may have struggled to actually do that connection. If some of those guys were here today, they'd be able to share some real tales of life at sea and how generous and kind Roy was. There may also be other stories that Denise may not want to hear. Attending the world famous peanut factory, as we called it, the National Sea Training College in Gravesend in Kent, not far from Roy's home in London, situated on the banks of the River Thames. But over a period of 12 to 16 weeks, we as young seafarers would learn all sorts of life skills, and as catering boys would learn how to make beds, wait tables, and then as seafarers had to fight fires and survive at sea, launching lifeboats. But I do hope that some of those skills that he learned at college, as he entered life ashore with his true love Denise and the girls, I hope he managed to put those good skills to test. The best of the students usually got snapped up by the passenger ship companies such as P&O, and it's not surprising that Roy was one of those. Tall, good-looking, and that cheeky smile. Often referred to by shipmates as a real gent. With Roy's selection to join P&O and Princess Cruises, he would serve on ships like Pacific Princess, Oriana and Sea Princess for Aussie Cruising. Working in the bars is where our paths crossed for the first time in the early 80s. And I think that's where he learned the art of socialisation. It's amazing to think for me, reconnecting after all these years, that Roy and Denise's daughter Charlotte and my son Hayden became friends without us even knowing that we lived in the same town. We both met our wives on Sea Princess, and as you heard, the love boat. It certainly was for many of us as young men. It was only recently that Roy popped up into my Facebook feed, and I was really looking forward to reconnecting with him. Talking about some of the old times, reminiscing on adventures and escapades as young sailors at sea. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. I'd like to read a poem titled The Merchant Navy. Originally written just after World War II, the latter parts for me describes the friendship of being at sea. What manner of person are these merchant mariners of the Queen? They dodge torpedo and bomb, and we can only imagine the horrors seen. To join their ranks, you have to prove you can stay the course without a tear. To know that you can be trusted to stand by their side and show no fear. These men are hard, but still can show compassion to a beaten foe. They fight hard and fight to win. Surrender is a word they do not know. The merchant navy sailor is hard to beat. They are warriors of a special breed. They face the terrors of war and weather to make sure we get the things we need. If you have one as a friend, then a friend indeed he will be. To treat him right, you will find that he will sacrifice himself for you. These men have a code of honour that you might not understand, but once you get to know them, you will wish you were part of their band. And those last two verses for me sum up Roy. Friendships forged at sea last a lifetime. You can meet someone on one trip and then not see them for years. But when you reconnect, it's as if those days have not disappeared. They are unconditional friendships. So Roy, on behalf of your ship's company, the men you sailed with over many years, the friendships you made and the bonds you shared, now that you've crossed the bar, we wish you fair winds, calm seas, and travel safe, my friend.
Thank you, Brad, very much indeed again for not only travelling to be here with us in Christchurch at this time, but for that very fine tribute to your friend. And what a wonderful poem you also shared with us. Thank you, Brad. It was really much appreciated. Now, before we see the photographs that the family have prepared, is there anyone else who would like to come forward to share a brief thought or memory with us? Or maybe you'd like to just leave these thoughts till later on for refreshments. I think that's what you're going to do. So let's enjoy the photographs and the music that the family have chosen for us to be a part of the service at this time.
You guys look like Dad trying to do Facebook.
I think the mouse broke.
There was another one.
Oh no, I got it. Oh no, I didn't. Just grabbed it.
What are you going to do with it?
I don't know, I'll figure it out though.
I think it's. Take the back down.
Wait, I think I got it.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. For the morning sun and all its glory greets the day with hope and comfort too. You fill my life with laughter, somehow you make it better. Ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. And at the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one, to the one. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. And at the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one, to the one. And have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? You fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. It's Have you stood by the ocean on a diamond hard morning and felt the horizon soar deep in your soul? Watch the wake of the steamers as it cuts through blue waters, being gripped by a fever you just can't control. To throw off the shackles, to fly with the seagulls, to where green waves tumble before driving sea winds, or to lie on the decking on a warm summer's evening, watch the red sun fall burning beneath the earth's rim. To every sailor whose time to drop anchor, all in the sails and make the line.
Well, from us all to Denise and the family, thank you for sharing with us those lovely photographic memories from over the years. It's great to see Roy as a younger man in the prime of his life, but I really love that connection with the sea as well, seeing the Oriana and some of those other ships there, one of them, and I think the Oriana there in San Francisco. Really lovely. Thank you so much. I know there'll be many other things to reflect upon as you gather here today, and very shortly you'll be able to chat about them as you enjoy refreshments together. But I just love the qualities that the family spoke of. His generosity and kindness. You spoke of him being one of life's characters. There were a lot of laughs throughout life, and we've seen that and heard that reflected in those wonderful things that have been spoken of today as we've gathered here to say this goodbye to Roy. But above all, perhaps, he was a man who loved and was loved by his family. And so as we close now the service, and we would do at the conclusion of a traditional funeral service, even though Roy's ashes are here, I'm going to say words of committal, and following that, the invitation again is from the family to move to the rear of the hall in which we are meeting to enjoy refreshments together, and I'm sure there'll be more music played at that time. So would you kindly be upstanding as I say these words? Thank you. Roy, today we honour and celebrate again your very special life. We have given thanks again because of who you were, for your love, your spirit and your caring ways, and for the privilege that we had in sharing our lives with you. Roy, we do share grief because of your leaving us, but your memories, they will always be a part of our lives and close to our hearts. Roy, we now tenderly and lovingly commit your ashes to be rested in a very special place, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Roy, rest peacefully now at the end of your days. Rest also in the hearts and minds of all you have loved, and may each of us who remain find comfort and strength in our love for one another, and in our hearts may we find peace.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think Peanut wants to. Yeah, Peanut, I've heard her talk about it when you turned up. Have the cards on the table to see that you're a JP?
It's coming.
I think it was